75, which is called the Old Testament. That was written and created for Christians. Why? Because the Roman Catholic Church had taught their parishioners against the barons, against the moneylenders, against the Templars. You see? The Templars were the Hemi bankers, but that goes into another subject. But anyway, what happened was that here you have a printing press. The problem with the Jews having a printing press at that time was that the masses of people throughout Europe couldn't read or write. The only people that could read or write were the young boys that was taken into the Roman Catholic Church monetary school system to be taught to be priests. They taught them to read and write. And then the rich monarchs and the kings of Europe had private tutors for their family. But the masses of people couldn't read or write. You see? So what happened is that these Jews who controlled the printing press, after they confiscated from Johannes Gutenberg, who could not pay back the high interest on the loan, they went into the Roman Catholic Church and got one, Martin Luther, out in 1517 to start what is known as a Protestant movement against the Roman Catholic Church and to break up that church, so to speak. And once that was done, the Protestant movement began. Okay? And what the Jews did at that point was to create Protestant Christian schools for the community or for the Europeans. That was beginning, school system began in Germany. Okay? Because, you know, Martin Luther penned or nailed 95 Reformed theses on the church council door in Wittenberg, Germany. So therefore, the school system for the Europeans began there. An organized school system began there. And the Roman Catholic Church countered that with parochial schools for the masses of people. And at that point, the Renaissance era began. They call that the Age of Enlightenment for the Europeans. You see? So now, here you have a beginning school system. In a school system, you have to have a curriculum. And in that curriculum, the Europeans created history. No other races of people throughout the world wrote a history of themselves because, number one, they had no alphabet. Only the ancient Egyptians. And if the ancient Egyptians wrote anything about themselves as a history, you couldn't read it anyway because it was in hieroglyphic form, and the hieroglyphic, like I mentioned before, has never been deciphered. You see that? One also has to realize that the chronology of ancient Egypt, such as the first dynasty, second dynasty, the third dynasty, the fourth dynasty, Akhenaten, and you name it, was created by the Europeans. He created that chronology of ancient Egypt. Okay? And the ancient Egyptians never wrote a history or a chronology of themselves. So I don't want anybody in the listening audience to think that the chronology of ancient Egypt as being used and taught today, that the ancient Egyptians wrote it. No, it was Europeans who wrote it. So when the Europeans, let's get back to Europe, when the Europeans formulated and created a school system beginning in Germany for the masses of people, that time in history, we're talking about the middle of the 16th century, that time in history is called the Renaissance era. And they created and put into their curriculum a subject called history. So whoever created history, whoever writes history, controls history. So the Europeans, by creating history, controlling history, can write himself in history to make himself look good. You see? So everybody knows, or should know, the history of the Europeans is based off of savagery. They were uncivilized savages. I'm not saying this to degrade the Europeans. This is his record. So today, with history, he can write himself and make himself look good because he created the subject called history. That's where history comes from, and I'm sorry to take this long to explain it to you.
No, I have a few questions to ask you relative to that history. Now, I want to clarify. Hebrewism, you're telling me, is not older than Christianity.
No.
But there was a Christianity because you had the Crusades and everything. But you're saying the Jews, well, how could they be Jews if there was no Hebrew?
Hebrew comes out of biblical literature. You got to understand, Hebrewism comes out of the religion called Judaism. Who created Judaism is one Rashi, 1080 to 1100, 20 years to create it. How did he create it? He created formulas for it. The formula for Judaism as a religion. Okay? And that formula was taught to a people known today in history as the Templars. You have to go back into the Crusades to learn about the Templars, etc. And they began to disseminate in a religious form the formulation or the form that Rashi created for a religion called Judaism. You see? So, Judaism is not a BC religion, even though they teach the masses of people that Judaism was first, Christianity second. They said that this Jesus the Christ was a Jew first, and that after his death, supposedly in 30 AD, came what is known as Christianity. But they are saying that Jesus was a Jew, and they teach you that from Judaism and Christianity came Islam, or the Muslims, etc., etc. You see? Well, that's historically incorrect. The first of the three major Western religions is called Christianity. It's all explained in my book, The Historical Origin of Christianity. The second religion that was created was a monophysitic religion, if you want to call it, for lack of another word. That was a creation by way of a polemic between the diphysitic Christians and the monophysites. A diphysitic Christian is an individual that believes that this Jesus Christ, which never existed, based off of myth, has two natures, one Osiris-like spirit and one a human nature. The monophysites comes back and counter that and say, well, no, this image that we know today as Jesus Christ had an Osiris-like spirit, only had one nature, an Osiris-like spirit, but no human nature. That argument went on for 921 years. And in my book that I'm about to release, called The Historical Origin of Islam, there's never been a man that ever walked the earth in human form by the name of Prophet Muhammad, will reveal this 921 years of polemic between the diphysitic Christians and the monophysites. 921 years they fought over whether the image and the object of Christianity, known to us today as Jesus Christ, whether this image had a human nature or not. You see, so I'll walk you through all that history. History, Clemson, is the only subject and the only entity that will give an individual the truth about these various religions. That's the only entity that will give you the nearest truth about religion. If you don't understand history, you will never, ever understand these religions. And the moment that you embrace a religion by way of believing in these religions, by embracing the literature that's connected to these religions, you will never, ever find your way back to your own indwelling personal spirituality that your Creator gave you. You'll be confused for the rest of your life.
Maybe in order to understand it a little better, and I will move on, but I want to exhaust the subject a little better. Christianity. Give us a history of Christianity, and if it didn't have anything to do with Hebrewism, just give us a history and tell us why it didn't have anything to do with Hebrewism.
Because, see, it's got to explain to you. They're trying to take Hebrewism back into BC time. Hebrewism comes out of the Bible.